Now we have with us today one of the most engaging success stories of Hack the Box. Um, so, how we met this person, I will add him. I don't want to say these things without him in order to see his reactions. So, the next person that we have with us today is plaintext, and he's going to say how we can reach the unreachable networks, how we can pivot inside unreachable networks. So we thank him very much for coming in this presentation. So, hello Julio, how are you?
Hello, Soti. I'm doing fine. You?
Very good. How is everything over there in Santo Domingo?
Santo Domingo is really nice. So it's like a paradise in the middle of the Caribbean. So if you want to go into vacation, so you can come to our country. The Dominican Republic will welcome you.
Perfect. And I want to share a few words about how we met. So we I joined Hack the Box, and one of the first things that Chop told me is that we have this guy that is in San Domingo, and he's amazing. He wants to start doing workshops for Hack the Box. He actually elevated his career through Hack the Box, and now he's working at Microsoft. And when I met you, I think you got. I was already hyped to work in the community department, but you hyped me even more because you show me all the cool stuff, and from your perspective I knew from myself, but also to see it from other people. So you inspired me a lot, and you inspired also the meetup program that we created, and we have almost 50 groups all over the world and more than 10k attendees, which actually we teach live hacking. If you
Yeah.
want, go guys to meetup.com, and there are people from each community. We thank a lot of the hosts and the ambassadors that they host these amazing live hacking workshops. So thank you very much, Julio. And I was I didn't feel quite well when you joined the company because I would lose you as ambassador of Hack the Box,
Mhm.
from the community side. But
Yeah.
it's amazing to have you in the team.
Yeah, it's nice to be like in this side of the company. Hack the Box, as you mentioned, it's literally changed my life. Like when I started doing hacking a few years ago, and the possibility, to join Microsoft and work at Microsoft, I know it was because of hacking. So I think that Hack the Box has been a really key part of my career success, and I'm really, happy to be part of the company right now.
And I think everyone is also happy that we have you on board because it always felt that you are part of us.
That's right.
Most members of the community, for example, the Discord team, I find it as colleagues. It's the same. So I'm going to remove myself from the stream and add your amazing presentation, and let's give it up to Julio and the Unreachable Network.
Thank you, Sote. Hi, guys. Well, I will say that for most of the people that are in this part of the world, in the Americas, Latin America or maybe US, we are on lunch time. I know that I have a big responsibility, and I want to make this talk fun and that you enjoy the moment here with us. So, we are going to talk about attacking the unreachable networks. So my name is Julio. I'm also known as plaintext. I am John Christian, husband, father. I have two kids, two girls, and the third one is coming. And also a friend, a gamer, and I love doing hacking. I've been in the industry of security and technology for around 15 years. I work at companies like Microsoft, Cinex, and right now I'm working at Hack the Box as a training developer, content developer for the academy team. So we are creating a lot of stuff related to hacking for defensive, offensive. So it's really nice work that we are doing, and we just recently released the Hack the Box certification, the first certification, the bug bounty, and there is more to come. So I'm also a leader in the Dominican Republic to the Red Team RD community, which is a cybersecurity community. Is the first meetup group in from Hack the Box that we created a few years ago, and it's an amazing community. So we are doing really nice on Hack the Box. So if you want to follow me in the Here are my this the QR code. I don't know if you can like capture the QR code exactly, but I will have the presentation link by the end of the talk, so you can go into the presentation and check everything else right there. So let me talk you about history a few years ago. I was working in a company. I won't tell you the name, and no, it's not Microsoft. And we were designing a website that we will release to the public. And we were, talking about that we will need this website to be secure. We will need firewalls. We will need to post this network or this website in a DMC network, and we will need to protect the website from attackers. We will design in how we will make this work. But that time there were not too much cloud usage, and we also need the website to connect to a database server. So everyone was like, thinking, getting the strategy. We surround ourselves, and everyone was sharing their ideas, those smart guys, telling why we should not put this here or why we should do this and this. And it was a really fun talk. We spent a few hours designing the how we will structure this web server that needs some access to sensitive data, and we came with this design. So this is the network design that we prepare. So basically, this is just a basic representation. We have a firewall, we have a DMC network, and then we have the internet network, and we, divide those networks. So basically, how we will work is like anyone coming from the internet into the internet network will be able to connect to the web server. But if you attempt to connect to the internet network from the internet, you won't be able to connect. So with this, design, we present to the CEO, we present to the security, to the CISO, to everyone, and everyone was happy. It was approved. And the team, was happy. We have the setup ready. We are ready to go. Let's do this. Everyone was excited about this new, website that we will release to the public and will provide useful content to our clients. But I created a DMC that should keep hackers out of the internet network. That should keep hackers out of the internet network. True. Well, the reality is that it can if you set it up properly, but if not, you know we will get in, and I will show you like what's going on behind the logic of this network design. So this is the logic behind the network design. So the first policy is that the firewall should block all incoming traffic uh, that go from the internet and the DMC network into the internet network. So we cannot have any traffic coming from the internet or the DMC through the internet network. That should be blocked. And the firewall should only allow uh, port TCP/80 and 443 to the web server from the internet. So that's good. And the third policy said that data cannot be saved in the DMC network. So we are talking here about the database server cannot be in the DMC network because it has sensitive data. Um, and we need to make an exception to allow connection from the web server to the database server on port TCP 1433 only. Only that port, only the port from web server to the DMC, only that port. Okay, you have 10 seconds right now. So you have to get your on your keyboard, and you need to identify what's the problem in this n- network design logic. So what's the problem in the logic? You have 10 seconds. So the one that get the answer faster, we will give it a prize. So you can we will try to get the first one, and then let's do it again. Okay, we are now 8, 9. Type your answer. what do you think is the problem in this network policy and why? So we will get into the winners later. So if you notice, it's saying that we create an exception from the web server to the database server. So that means that the web server can actually connect to the database because it's where the data is located. But if the server is compromised, we will be able to get into the uh, database server, and from there we might be able to get into the internet network. So let's see how. Let's create an attack theory and how we can actually accomplish this. So first, we need to find a vulnerability in the web application and exploit it. If you want to learn how to find a vulnerability in the web application, then you will need to go into Hack the Box Academy and get into the Certified Boot Bounty Hunter certification, and then you will learn how to do it. But we will not cover that. We will just use a script for exploiting the web application. Then from the web application, we will pivot into the Microsoft SQL Server. That's the second step. From this database server, then we will use the database server to pivot into the internet network and finally compromise the Active Directory. So this is the attack theory that we have, and then I will show you right now how we will execute it. So this is the network design, and I actually really like to create network designs when I'm trying to do like pivoting, because when you do pivoting, you need to visually like see how everything is designed. So it's better, it's easier when you set up everything when you want to do any kind of pivoting. So right now here we have the attack machine, which is our this is like the public IP 192.168.220.133. This is our attack box, and we have command and control running on port 80. We will target the public IP address of this network, which is 192.168.220.164. We will target this IP address in this port. And then in the DMC network, there is another network. This basically will NAT everything. So we'll target this, and from this, the firewall will forward the traffic into the web server. And once we compromise the web server will connect back to us. So let's see this in action. So right now we connect into the web server. We have, the connection to the web server, and we have Covenant running, which is our command and control. Covenant is running on port 80. So we are here at the IP address 192.168.220.133, and we are listening on port 80, which is the port of our command and control. So now we will execute the exploit against the web server. And as you can see, we get a shell in the web server. I won't go into the detail of that. If we get access into the web server, so now we can test, for example, we can try to execute like who am I and a host name. So we get information about our target. So next, um, what we want to do is that we already have access to the web server. We compromise the web server. We already own the web server. Now we need to identify if the web server has connection, if there is any other like web server, database, device, another IP address that we can connect. And we will do that by doing some enumeration. So let's use command and control. Let's use netstab. We see that there is a connection to 192.168.1.101 port 1433. This is really important because we identify a connection to a database server from this device. If we do some enumeration, we find a web config file with like a backup web config file that contains credentials to that database server. So basically, right now we have credential for the database server, and we identify that this web server has actually able to connect to that database server. So right now, as you can see in the attack graph, we have access to the web server. We hacked that server already, but we identify a possible connection to the database server, which is located in another network. So let's see the first pivoting example. So the pivoting example number one, we need to connect to the database server, but we cannot do that directly. So we cannot connect from our attack box into the database server because it's blocked. But we can connect to the web server. So what we will do is that we will use the web server to pivot into the database server. And for doing that, we will use Chisel. Chisel is TCP UDP tunnel transported over UDP secured via SSH. So basically, we can use Chisel to create a different kind of port forwarding to go through firewalls and reach other networks using this application. This application is created in Go, so it can be used in Windows, Linux, Mac, most likely any operating system. So the way that it works is like when once we download Chisel, we will execute Chisel in our attack box. This is the command that we will use. We will use Chisel server reverse, and we will specify the port 8000, and we will use the flag for verbosing. So that's when we execute that command in the attack server, it will start listening on port 8000, right? So next, we move into the web server because we already have a shell on that server. We need to upload the Chisel client, and from the web server, we will execute this command. So we will use Chisel client, the IP address and port number of the Chisel server, and then we'll specify reverse with the R, 192.168.101.1433, which is the IP address of the database server that we previously identified. So once we do that, the client will connect to the Chisel server, and it will create a port in my local machine. So basically, that means that if I connect into the port in my local port 1433, it will basically route the traffic, forward the traffic through the Chisel application into the database server. So just to give you an example, if I run mmap localhost port 1433, it will go through the Chisel tunnel directly into the database server. So let's see this in action. So let's first download Chisel from GitHub. So it's a tool that you can basically go and download. We will get the Windows binary, and then we get the Linux binary. Once we have both binaries, then we extract those binary, and we need to transfer the Windows binary into the web server. So let's use um, um, Covenant to move into the Windows 10 location and upload the Chisel application. Right, so we are uploading Chisel right now. We uploaded Chisel, and let's see if Chisel is working by just running the help. All right, I think, yes, Chisel is working right now. So we can move into our attack box. And here we will run Chisel 2, but in server mode, as I mentioned before. So we run Chisel, server mode, reverse, port 8000, and we're listening right now. So right now we are listening on port 8000 and port 80, right? So now once we connect with the client, we will listen in on port 1433. So let's use Chisel client. We specify the IP address of the our attack box, and we specify the R for the reverse port forward to the destination that we want to reach. Once we do that, we get the connection from the chisel client, and if we see the listening port, we are now listening on port 1433. We can, for example, perform now a local host mmap scan against our local port, and we will reach the database network. So basically now we have a connection into the database server, which is really nice. We can use the tool SQSH to get into the database. We see that we are sysadmin into the database, and that means that we can basically enable XP CMD shell, which is a utility within Microsoft SQL that allows you to execute commands in SQL. So basically, this is what we are trying to enable right now. I will have some notes for the presentation at the end. So now we can actually execute command on the server. I will try to pin the from the database to the my attack box, but we cannot access the our attack box. So the database right now is blocked, so it cannot access the attack box in the internet. But the database can actually access the web server. So right now, this is the issue. If we want to get a shell into the database server, but the database server cannot connect to our attack box, it's blocked by the firewall rules. So it can only connect to the web server, but the web server can actually connect back to us. So we can use this to actually create the scenario. So right now, what we're gonna do is in our attack box, we will create a new port, which is the port 8001, and um, we will specify the connection address to be the web server because this is where the database can actually connect to. This is a nice trick that many people might don't know about Windows. In Windows, you can actually do pivoting natively. So you can use net command to do a port forward within Windows. So you don't need any tool for that. So the way it works is like we specify a listening port and a listening address and a connect port and a connect address. So basically, we are telling Microsoft or Windows right now that any connection that you get into port 8001, you will forward that connection into port 8001 in IP address 192.168.20.133. This is really nice because, and we need this uh, because the database server we connect to this server, and the server will forward the traffic to our attack box. So now from the database server, we can execute PowerShare, and we will target the web server. And once the web server get that connection, we'll forward the connection to our attack box. And this is basically the chain that we will create. So let's see this in action. So right now we need to be admin to execute that port forwarding. So we'll need to escalate privilege for doing that. Or we can use Chisel, which doesn't require the admin privileges. So we execute the command right now. We will also need to like allow the port, like create a firewall rule to allow incoming traffic into that port, or we can just disable the firewall, whatever we want. Next, we need to create another listener in our command server that will target the web server, right? Even though this is not the IP address of our machine, but it will just work because it will forward the traffic into our network. So right now we are listening on port 8001 and 80 for our command and control. So next, we need to create like a payload. We will use the new port that we create, and we will host the payload into a simple file. We go back into the database server. We connect using SQSH, and then we execute the payload there. So when we execute this payload, it will connect into the web server, and from the web server, we'll forward the traffic to our attack box. And now we have access to the database server. So we basically now have access to the database server. We can start, enumerating because okay, I know what's going on, but we need to like be aware of the network that we are in right now. We see that we have some connection in the ARP table. We see the domain name, so we can actually try to pin that domain name to see what is the IP address of that domain name, and we get that is 100. So that's really nice. So right now, so the last exercise is like we need to get access to the internet network from our attack box. And in order to do that, what we're gonna do is like we will use a SOX proxy. So it's basically the same. We will jump from one server to another server to another server into we get, into the internet network. So the way that SOX proxy works is like it will redirect the traffic that we send into through proxy into the internet network. So basically, that will allow us to execute locally tools from the for our attack box into the internet network. To do that, what we're gonna do is again we will use Chisel. So we will run another port on Chisel. This will be port 880A02 with the flag SOX, SOX 5. So then we will use Netch to create another port forward into the web server to just forward the traffic into that another machine. And from the database server, we will, because the database server is the one that is connected to the internet network, we will use the flag R SOX. So that can actually connect into our attack machine. So the way that we work is we'll connect the database to port 8002, and from that it will forward the traffic to our attack box. And once that we get that traffic, it will open a port on a port 1080, which we will use with a tool called proxy chains. So proxy chains basically will like forward like all the traffic that we get into the all the traffic that we so proxy chain, the way that we work is like it will forward the traffic from any application into the sock proxy, and basically what that will allow us to connect through the sock using any application. So let's see this in action. So we will execute in our attack box the port 8002 with the flag sock 5. uh, and from the attack server, we need to upload Chisel. So we can do the, we need to connect Chisel from the database server into our attack machine. So we will target as you can see, we are targeting now the web server, not actually the public IP address, because we will forward that traffic to our database server. So right now, I just missed the configuration on the web server, but you need to like create a port forward in the web server to actually do this. Just to speed forward a little bit. Now, using proxy chains, we need to specify within proxy chains that the port that we will use. Right now, we'll use SOC 5 and the port 1080. With that, we just basically use proxy chains, and we specify the application that we want to use. As you can see, I'm targeting for an IP address from the internet network. We are targeting common port for active directories. And as you can see, basically get access into the internet network using proxy chains. Um, Finally, let's imagine that we get a hash from a user, and we need to get a shell into the Active Directory server. then we can use this. Let's use, okay, we will connect into the internet network with the hash. Let's use a hash. That means that you do your diligence and you find a way to escalate privilege. We use proxy chains, as you can see, and that's basically what we need to get into the internet network. So as you can see, we were able to come from the web server to the database server into the Active Directory. So that's basically what we were able to do. So let's see, they are saying me, sorry. All right. Okay, where can I learn and practice more about pivoting? Um, in the Hack the Box Academy, we are there is a module coming soon about pivoting, tunneling, and port forwarding that you will be able to, you know, um, to use. In this module, you will learn all the topics that I've been, discussing with you guys. You will have a lab to practice and everything that you need right there. You can also use Hack the Box main platform for doing the practice. We have the Pro Labs and we have other, machines that you can actually use for pivoting. And IPsec Rocks, that Rocks is actually a good resource for you to find those machines that you can use for doing the pivoting chisel practice. And this is everything I have for you guys. Thank you. The slides for the presentation are right there in my GitHub. So you can go into use this QR code and you can scan the QR code to get into the slides. And hopefully you have fun with the talk and you learn something useful. Thank you guys.
Hey,
Um,
oh, no, no, no. It took us some time because it was a I had an issue with my mice. Everything is okay. So thank you very much, Julio, for the talk. Thank you very much also for having us, for being with us here today. Let's go and see some of the questions. Amazing job. Okay, so. Let's go. Do I need to be a network expert for pivoting?
Not really. You need to understand how network works. If you don't, you will be lost really quickly. But you need to learn the basics. How routing, you need to learn at least routing is really important. How network operates, how the internet works, for example. It doesn't have to be you. No, you just doesn't have to be an expert. I'm not an expert. Even though like my most of my experience were in networking before jumping into hacking, but you don't need to be an expert.
Okay, and do you have any tips for pivoting? If you could
Uh,
share with us three tips, what it would be?
yeah, like for pivoting, you need to draw. Like if I don't draw, a little bit boxes and connecting one piece to another, I will be lost. I need to draw everything, when doing pivoting because it can be, tricky. I know there was a speed, fast forward talk, and many people were like, what he said, you need to go back and rewatch the talk. But basically, yeah, I will advise you to draw everything as much as possible. I also advise you to create your own labs and test your own stuff. It's really important. That's really helpful. But if you cannot have like a small lab in which you can do this kind of thing, then you can jump into Hack the Box, for example. You can jump into the academy and do the pivot team. So it will be released really soon. I'm expecting it to be released maybe this month. So as soon
Okay,
as you see that, just go and sign in for the new model, and you will be, you will have the tools for doing this practicing.
that is very nice. Now you promised, so we need to deliver.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Julio. Do you know what is our next talk?
Yeah, we have a really nice and loved by the community. He's constantly, sharing his knowledge with the community with his write-ups. He's a really smart guy. Like I have the opportunity to work with him now at Hack the Box, and it's really amazing. So I think that you guys will enjoy this talk. David is really awesome person, and I think he will share good information with you. So keep there. There is more to come, and the next talk will be really nice.
Thank you, Julio. So thank you very much. I'm going to remove you from the stream. So bye, Julio.
Bye, guys.